All right, shifting gears to the WNBA here, because the collective bargaining agreement between the W and its Players Association, it is set to expire this week on January the 9th. Now, Napheesa Collier, she spoke on the current situation from her team's Unrivaled game last night. Take a listen.
Napheesa Collier just dropped a nuclear bomb right in the middle of women's basketball. This woman is literally the VP of the WNBA Players Union, and she's out here torching the entire league while building her own competing basketball organization. Yes, you read that correctly. She's supposed to be fighting for WNBA players, but instead she's actively trying to steal them for her startup. The level of audacity here is mind-blowing, and the chaos that followed, completely devastating for everyone caught in the crossfire.
Hear what Napheesa is saying, absolutely, and the reality is the deadline is just a couple of days away. So she's saying that she sees a deal getting done, but also that they are not going to take less. Where do things stand now with those negotiations?
Yeah, Malika, both sides are still very far apart in these negotiations. Rev sharing is still at the centerpiece of these conversations, as they have been for the past couple months. What would a revenue share system look like? What would be considered revenue, and how would you account for expenses? Those are all things that are being discussed right now. Now, last week, Malika, multiple sources familiar with these negotiations told ESPN that the WNBA is projecting that a proposal by the Players Association that has 30% gross revenue and a salary cap around $10.5 million would result in $700 million in losses for the W. That is a very big number.
Here's what I want to know. Is it even possible to negotiate honestly for a league when you're reconstructing its replacement? Let me know what you think in the comments, because this whole mess is more chaotic than pickup basketball at your neighborhood rec center. Seriously.
The co-founders of Unrivaled, Stewart and Collier, are of course VPs on the committee. The very committee that voted to authorize a strike against WNBA and NBA owners over the CBA. The very committee that authorized the proposal that would lose the WNBA $700 million. The very committee that is turning down salary increases of about 9 times the amount of money you're making.
Let's dive deep into conflicts of interest, because Napheesa Collier just created the ultimate guide on how to completely destroy your professional credibility. This person holds the VP position for the WNBA Players Union. That means she's supposed to advocate for players inside the WNBA system. But plot twist, she's also co-founding Unrivaled, which is a direct competitor to the WNBA. Imagine being the executive chef at Burger King while secretly opening your own restaurant next door, and then publicly complaining that Burger King's food quality is terrible. The raw nerve of this move would actually be admirable if it weren't so completely insane. Now here's where everything goes completely off the rails. Collier didn't just quietly develop her league behind closed doors. Oh no, that would be too subtle. She went full nuclear on the WNBA right in the middle of CBA negotiations. She stood up boldly and announced that the WNBA's entire financial structure is completely broken. Her exact words were, "If the WNBA can't discover a model that makes that work, they need to bring in people who can figure it out." Hold up. You're the VP of the Players Union and you're publicly destroying the league's core business strategy? That's not negotiation. That's straight-up warfare disguised as diplomacy. But wait, there's so much more. Collier then had the absolute audacity to position Unrivaled as her perfect example of how professional basketball should operate. She insisted Unrivaled had demonstrated it's absolutely possible to create a profitable business and claimed they're absolutely crushing it. She promised to hold her ground in negotiations, stating, "We're not backing down and we refuse to accept less money." Crushing it? Let's examine what crushing it actually looks like. Because clearly Collier needs some basic business education. Unrivaled is completely funded by private investors. That's not sustainable profit, people. That's venture capital money keeping you alive while you desperately try to figure out how to generate actual revenue. Claiming your league is financially stable because investors are dumping cash into it is like claiming you're wealthy because your credit cards still work. The self-deception is absolutely incredible. One fan perfectly captured this when they wrote they believe attracting investors equals making profit. Wrong, that's funding to support you while you build the infrastructure to eventually generate real money. Exactly right, investors aren't income streams. They're essentially betting you might become profitable eventually, so here's some cash to avoid immediate bankruptcy. TNT is apparently losing serious money on Unrivaled broadcast. The moment those advertising contracts disappear and TNT stops funding this experiment, game over. Done. Vanished like promises from politicians during election season. And here's the detail that absolutely killed me. Collier scheduled surgery right in the middle of Unrivaled season. Let me say that again. The co-founder of this supposedly revolutionary thriving basketball organization decided to have medical procedures and miss games in her own league instead of scheduling it during the WNBA offseason, when Unrivaled supposedly has 0 players competing.
Ankle surgery or whatever it was. I don't get it. This is in January. You got hurt. Makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. That, in my opinion, that shows a little bit of lack of interest in your own business, I guess. Especially in light of the fact that
if that doesn't scream, I don't really believe my own product is important, then I honestly don't know what would. Your actions reveal your true priorities. And her actions are broadcasting that even she doesn't consider Unrivaled genuinely significant. Let's examine the absolutely hilarious differences between these two leagues. Unrivaled operates as 3-on-3 basketball with tiny rosters in one single location, using one small gym with one cramped arena. Meanwhile, when Caitlin Clark takes the court for WNBA games, they're selling out enormous NBA venues with 20,000+ screaming fans filling every seat. The difference couldn't be more stark if someone designed it specifically to make Collier look foolish. She's operating what one genius commenter described as a bargain basement-looking basketball operation. Basically a television studio setup that might hold 1,000 people on a really good night, and then she has the unbelievable nerve to lecture the WNBA about following Unrivaled's business model. The irony practically writes comedy sketches by itself. Another person raised the perfectly logical question about how many tickets are they just giving away for free. Because honestly, when you're a brand new league desperately trying to create excitement, you're definitely distributing complimentary tickets like Halloween candy. That's not legitimate sustainable attendance. That's artificial manufactured buzz designed for social media. Here's what absolutely destroys me about this entire situation. Unrivaled isn't even in its second complete season. It's basically still learning to walk. One person completely obliterated this logic by pointing out this is literally the first week of the second season. How can you possibly claim to understand long-term business sustainability? You can't and you don't. It's like a 3-year-old trying to give their parents advice about managing household finances. You've existed for approximately 5 minutes, so maybe slow down with the expert business consultation. Another fan summarized it perfectly, calling it a 2-year 3-on-3 pop-up league, and suggested please return when Unrivaled survives 3 full decades. The WNBA has been working for years developing infrastructure, negotiating television contracts, and building genuine fan loyalty, while Collier believes her tiny experiment that's existed for roughly 10 seconds should become the industry standard. The arrogance is absolutely breathtaking.
You have the union saying, no, our proposed model would still result in the W being a profitable business. So just on that alone, we can see how far apart these two sides are. And now as that January 9th deadline comes on Friday, there are a couple different things that we could see happen. One, a deal get done, as Napheesa Collier said she's confident can happen. I'm being told that is less likely. So if that's not going to happen, we can see another extension be agreed upon, as it has happened a couple other times during these negotiations. The current agreement could just run out, but they could continue to negotiate in good faith.
Meanwhile, let's discuss the massive elephant dominating this room, Caitlin Clark. While Collier stays busy attempting to destroy the WNBA from within, Clark has been single-handedly breathing new life into the entire league. She's attracting massive crowds. She's generating television viewership. She's making the WNBA culturally relevant in ways nobody has seen in decades. And what does she receive in return for this incredible contribution? A union VP, who's actively working to destabilize the league's financial foundation while simultaneously demanding players receive bigger paychecks. The logic completely breaks down here, people. Consider the impossible position this creates for Clark. She's out here serving as the primary face of the WNBA's incredible comeback, bringing record-breaking attention and generating unprecedented revenue streams. And her own union leadership is publicly announcing the league is financially hopeless. How exactly is that protecting her career interests? How is that advocating for her professional future? It's not. It's purely selfish manipulation disguised as player representation. The fan responses have been absolutely brutal and completely justified. People are describing the union's position as poorly thought out and calling it a completely foolish approach. The online basketball community has been roasting Collier with the power of a solar flare, demanding explanations that nobody appears ready to provide. Because here's the fundamental truth: you cannot serve two competing masters simultaneously. You cannot function as VP of the WNBA Players Union while actively creating and promoting a directing competitor. The conflict of interest is so blindingly obvious that pretending it doesn't exist insults everyone's basic intelligence. Collier is essentially negotiating against the very league she was elected to support. She's sitting at bargaining tables declaring "pay us more money or we leave," while literally constructing the exact place they would leave to. It's organized extortion with additional complicated steps. And let's directly confront the sustainability argument right now. The WNBA has faced legitimate challenges, absolutely, but it's supported by the NBA infrastructure. It has confirmed television broadcasting agreements. It operates facilities in multiple major cities. It has a fan base that's been expanding consistently, especially with emerging stars bringing incredible new energy. Unrivaled has investors who could abandon ship at any moment, a single facility, and a business model that remains completely unproven beyond wealthy people. Gave us startup money. These situations are not remotely comparable. One analyst brilliantly observed that the WNBA could essentially snap Unrivaled out of existence overnight. And they're absolutely correct. The WNBA has the financial resources, the institutional backing, and the established infrastructure to completely eliminate a competitor if they chose to. Collier is playing with explosives while standing inside a fireworks warehouse. The real tragedy in all this chaos: there are absolutely legitimate discussions to have about WNBA player compensation. There are completely valid concerns about salaries and working conditions that deserve serious attention. But Collier has completely contaminated these important conversations by making everything about her competing business interests, instead of genuine player advocacy. How are players supposed to trust their union representation when the VP has such obvious personal ulterior motive? How is the WNBA supposed to negotiate honestly with someone actively attempting to steal their talent and undermine their entire business model? They can't possibly. It's completely impossible. Which explains exactly why these negotiations collapsed so spectacularly. Collier manufactured an impossible situation where she's demanding the WNBA operate exactly like her investor-funded startup, while simultaneously attacking them for not generating enough independent profit. It's completely circular reasoning that makes absolutely no logical sense, and the players pay the ultimate price. Clark and her teammates are trapped in professional limbo while their union leadership plays political games with their career. The rising stars who have been elevating the entire league suddenly discover themselves caught in an internal war they never asked to join. The attendance figures at Unrivaled games reveal everything you need to understand. While Clark is packing 20,000-seat arenas, Unrivaled is performing for audiences you could squeeze into a typical high school gymnasium. The funeral atmosphere someone described at Unrivaled events versus the absolutely electric energy at WNBA games featuring actual superstars. Not even remotely close to comparable. Collier's complete misunderstanding of operational scale creates the core problem. She believes because Unrivaled can cover basic expenses with investor funding in a tiny operation, the WNBA should accomplish the same thing with a league spanning numerous cities, maintaining full rosters, playing traditional 5-on-5 basketball, and operating at a completely different organizational level. It's like comparing a neighborhood lemonade stand to Amazon and suggesting Amazon should learn efficiency lessons from the lemonade stand. The comparison is ridiculous from every possible angle. What really infuriates me is this complete betrayal of player trust. Players elected Collier specifically to represent their interests within the WNBA system, not to construct her personal business empire, not to leverage her position for her side business, but to actually advocate for improved conditions within the current established structure. Instead, she weaponized her elected position to declare war on the league itself, leaving everyone, especially the superstar players who built the WNBA's recent incredible success, completely abandoned while she promotes her startup venture. The precedent this establishes is extremely dangerous. Imagine if this behavior became standard practice. Union leaders actively sabotaging their employers while developing competing businesses. It would completely destroy any possibility of honest negotiations in professional sports anywhere. And for what ultimate purpose? So Collier can claim she never compromised. So she can point to her failed negotiations as evidence. The WNBA is fundamentally broken while conveniently ignoring that she personally broke it. This entire situation reeks of someone who gained a small amount of power, received substantial investor funding, and decided normal ethical rules no longer applied to their behavior. The sheer hubris of standing up as union VP and declaring total war on your own league while your competing startup struggles to fill a modest arena is genuinely extraordinary. Bottom line analysis: Collier gambled everything and lost spectacularly. She bet she could force the WNBA into submission by threatening them with an ultimatum backed by her thriving alternative business. But her alternative isn't thriving at all. It's barely surviving on financial life support provided by investors who might disconnect funding at any moment. Meanwhile, the WNBA, with superstars like Clark driving unprecedented growth, is actually expanding, actually selling out venues, actually building genuine sustainable momentum. And Collier is standing there trying to convince everyone the sky is falling while pointing at a perfectly clear, beautiful blue sky. The mental gymnastics required to maintain this contradictory position must be absolutely exhausting. But at least she remains consistently inconsistent in her approach. Napheesa Collier attempted to manipulate both sides simultaneously and ended up serving neither effectively. Her catastrophic power play left the WNBA in complete chaos and demonstrated that genuine loyalty matters infinitely more than temporary leverage. If you believe union leaders should actually represent their leagues instead of actively sabotaging them, hit that like button and subscribe for more completely unfiltered commentary on sports drama that's too absolutely insane to ignore.